Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So it's that time of the month again when we embark on a brand new art project over on the Mission Inspiration Facebook group. So at the moment there are over 4,500 people, I think, regularly joining in with all the missions, the quarantine quickies that I've been putting up every day since lockdown began, well, at least here in the UK anyway. And also the mid-month mini mission. So it's a hive of activity, creativity and inspiration. So why not pop along to our Facebook group and ask to join in with the fun. So having said that, this month for June, the prompts and colour scheme and words have been set by our good friend Linda Simpson. And the theme for this month is Grunge It Up. And we have the colours of brown, burnt orange, patina green, and the words for inspiration are distressed, rustic, decaying, shabby and neglected. So I've got my focal point, I've got my colours out of my cupboard, so I'll turn over to my overhead camera and show you what I'm going to create with this month's prompts. As per usual for the Mission Inspiration main project for 2020, I'm working in this circle journal that I created specifically for the missions. Now, as you can see, I've got a few bits and pieces already scattered around me that I've gone hunting for in my drawers of ephemera and bits and pieces for this art journal page. So I've printed off the card for June's mission. So we've got the colour brown, burnt orange and patina green. So I've gone through my collection of paints and I've brought out brown. I've got honey brown and terracotta, which are kind of nice, kind of rusty brown colours. I've also pulled out my Dina Wakley cheddar, which is a kind of burnty orangey kind of colour. So that will do for that one. And for the patina green, I'm using the Dina Wakley turquoise colour, which is a kind of really nice kind of copper oxide verdigris kind of colour, which I think is what Linda was going for with that patina green. I've also just pulled out a bottle of white, so just plain acrylic white. So those are going to be the main colours for my page, so I've got those sorted. So for the main focal image for this page, which I don't normally reveal straight away, but I'm going to this time because I need to place it to make sure that what I'm working on in the background is going to fit. So, and I've been a bit obsessed of late with images of geisha girls. Don't ask me why. There's nothing in it, trust me. But I just loved this image that I found, and it did actually have, now I don't think the camera's picking the colour up because it's a little bit bright, but the gown, the kimono gown that she's wearing is a kind of greeny colour, and then we've got that kind of orangey red colour in the undergarment, if you like. And I know this isn't a real kind of image of a geisha girl, it's a Western girl dressed to look kind of geisha, but I just loved kind of like the size and the way she's looking, and I thought that would work really, really nicely in for an art journal page. So I've printed her out on my computer. I've brightened her a little bit just to kind of wash her out slightly, because we are talking about grunging. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've placed her down on the position on the page where I think she's going to fit the best. Obviously it's going to be creased, so there's going to be a crease running right the way down the page. So you can see I've already scored and marked it, so I know exactly where that crease is going to fall. And I've got a pencil and I've just lightly gone round on the page to show kind of where I want her to be. So I don't know whether you can pick up, or the camera's picking up those pencil marks. That's better, you can see it just there. So I've done a light pencil mark on the page just to kind of remind me of where I'm going to be putting her, so that I don't add any elements too far in that they're going to be completely covered up, if that makes sense. So the clip there is only just to hold those pages down, because my pages tend to spring up a little bit, so that's the only reason why that's there, just to hold it down to give it a little bit of weight. So I think I'm ready to actually start adding some bits of colour onto the art journal page. Now, because This is a grungy art journal page. I'm going to start off with a kind of thin wash of paint. To do that, I want to add some gesso to the page. So I'm going to use, unusually for me, clear gesso to start off with. That's if I can get the lid off. There we go. This is nearly empty now, so I'm going to have to start putting in an order for some more. I'll just grab a brush, little brush. I treat myself to some new ones. These are the Royal Langnickel Taklon brushes. So I'm just going to add a little coat of clear gesso to the page. Now the reason I'm using clear gesso rather than white is because I want to see where the line is that I've drawn in pencil. And if I add white to it, I might not get, or I might cover the line up, which isn't what I want. So I'm not going to go right to the edge of the page because this is going to be a grungy page anyway. So the chances are I'm going to go around the outside for a border and grunge up the border, as we do. Right, so I'll just quickly add that gesso on until it's nearly running out. I'm having to fish at the bottom of the, there we go. That's better. Gets plenty on the brush, that way I don't have to keep going fishing as often, do I? Make sure there's plenty up towards there. That should do. Okay, just drop that in some water, grab my heat gun, and I'm just going to quickly dry off that clear gesso, which you can't actually see. Trust me, it's there. There's a shiny bit there. And I'll be back. My gesso is now dry. And I forgot to mention, I don't know whether I did mention this earlier or in previous ones, but if anybody's interested in the size of this journal, it's around about or just over 8 inches. So the actual pages are around about 8 inches, or as near as I could get it to 8 inches, which is a nice size for working on. Okay, so we'll start to add some colour to the page now. Let's just move that clear gesso out of the way. So before I add any elements to the page, I want to start building up the texture in the background. So to do that, I want to create a kind of grungy background, but I want to start off with the darker colours first. So I'm going to bring out the terracotta, and I'm going to add some blobs of terracotta around the page. Now, bearing in mind, make sure that you're aware, or I'm aware, of where my focal point is going to go, so there's no need to add loads and loads of paint in the place where I'm going to be sticking down my focal point. You can just hear me washing my brush off to the side. Just give that a bit of a swill round, and then I'm just going to go around the page with that kind of browny colour, just to those areas where I can see where the focal point is going to go. And as you can see, I'm not I'm going kind of in different kind of brush strokes, lefts and rights, ups and downs, to kind of get a warm look. So I'm not just going in one direction, I'm going left and right, different directions, up and down. I just need to get a piece of scrap, slide that underneath just so I'm not going to go on to the next set of pages. And then we can go back over. We've got a bit of spare paint. I'm going to come all the way down. And then just go a little bit up towards the top or to the edges of the page, just make it a bit grungy, a bit scrabbly. like so. A bit more there. A bit wetter. Okay, drop that in some water. Want to get that dry, so that's the next step. That background paint is now pretty much dry. Well, it is dry and still quite warm actually. So what I want to do next is I want to bring in the lighter colour. So that lighter colour, the first one we used was the terracotta, so the next one is going to be the honey brown. But for this one, instead of blobbing straight down, I'm going to put some just on that piece of paper there. I didn't shake it up, did I? Ah, because I can see the binder in there. That's no good. That's better. Okay, shake the bottle up. That's the problem with these paints, if there is any kind of problem with them. It's just that if you don't shake them up, they do separate. Right, I'm just going to get some paint onto this spatula, and because it's grungy, I'm just going to scrape with the paint, which is going to give me a little bit of a kind of uneven coverage. And then do the same on this side. See, it's just catching. So you're not getting a complete kind of overall effect. And I can bring it down and then across. So I've got two kind of shades of brown in that background, which is kind of giving it the look of rough plaster, very rough plaster, which is great. It's a nice grungy texture. Turn that over and then just scrape. So using two colours of different kind of tones, so a darker brown and a lighter brown, has given me a little bit of depth, and you can see the layers. Just quickly clean that spatula off. That will go back in my tub, and again just need to get that dry before we move on to the next step. Okay, so if I hold that up to the camera, you can see the different kind of shades of brown creating that grungy kind of rusty look in the background. So what I want to do now is bring in some stencil in, because that just looks like a hot mess at the moment. Once the focal point goes down, in fact let me bring it in so I can show you. So the focal point we said is going to go about there. So now you can see we've got that area, so it's tidied it up just by adding that little point down there. Make sure I've got that in the crease there. Probably that's going to get covered up there anyway, so it was a little bit out with my drawings, but that's okay. About there. But we can cover that in a little while. So it's starting to look okay. Doesn't look anything once the focal point is taken away. So the next step, I want to add some stenciling onto the background of this. So this is a stencil from my collection called Fandango, which I think is kind of a nice kind of Japanesey style. I'm just going to pop down there. Now I want to add some of the orange paint now. So let's just bring that scrap piece back in. Drop some of that cheddar down, and I've got a craft sponge just cut up into a small wedge. So I'm going to load up the sponge, hold that down, and then I'm just going to go over the top. Now this may just be too subtle to be any kind of use, so if it is, then I will switch out without lifting. You can see it, There is some in there, so what I might do is I might just add a little bit of white to that orange, just to lighten it a little bit, get it mixed. That's better. So I'll just put the stencil back. That's pretty much where it was. And now if I go over, we've got more of a pronounced look. Because it's a lighter colour, but it's still within the same shade of that kind of orange, I'm going to bring it down so that it disappears behind where the focal point's going to be. So I can lift that off, and then if I drop that down over the top of the previous one, I can then bring that pattern all the way around. And then I can repeat it back at this side. If I start to run out of paint, it's okay, I'll just mix some more. Because I'm using a sponge, I'm not getting a total even kind of coverage, which is great, because, you know, we're going for that grungy look. So if I just drop that stencil back down over that pattern there, I can then carry on with the repeat. Excuse the knocking in the background. There we go. Like that. So I'll put that stencil to one side for cleaning later, and then once again we need to do a little bit of a dry in and a clean up session on my fingers, and I'll be back when this is dry. Now that the fan pattern is dry, I want to bring in that kind of patina green colour now. So we've got the brown, we've got the oranges in there, just to kind of give it that rusty, old patina-y kind of look. So time to bring in that turquoise paint. So I'm going to put a little bit of the paint down on this bit of scratch paper that we've got here. I do have some paint mats somewhere, and it's just finding them. And I've got this piece of torn card, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly drag the card through the paint so we've got a little bit of an edge to it. You can see. And then I'm going to turn that round, and then I'm going to slightly kind of drag that down the page a little bit. So go down through, and then because you've got your uneven edges on the paper, you're going to get an uneven impression for your mark making going down the page. So it just adds a kind of nice coppery oxide-y patina effect onto your page. If you've got a little bit too heavy in some areas, it doesn't matter. But I'm kind of dragging it down so it all goes in the same kind of direction. Okay, so I think that is fine for that. Now let's just bring our character back in, and she's going to sit there. Now that, to me, looks really nice. So just the kind of thing that I was looking for. So I need to get that dried off again. So once again, I'll see you in a bit. That patina paint is now dry, and it's just added those nice little kind of accents in the background. Now, one of the things that people always, I think, get hung up on is trying to get equal amounts of all these three colours in their projects when they're trying them. You don't have to. You know, you could just use one as an accent colour and just use two of the other ones, or even just one of the colours as your main and the other two as accent colours. Don't get hung up about trying to get everything in equal proportions, because you'll just drive yourself around the bend, and nobody wants that. Okay, so my little geisha girl. So what I need to do is I want to add some glue to the back of her, because I'm going to stick her down now. So I'm just using some Aleene's tacky, but I'm not going right to the edge of the cutout, because I want to tuck some bits behind her. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of room underneath at this side. And then I can position her down into the middle, like so. So I've got enough space to be able to tuck things behind on this edge. When I add them in, the glue from the bits that I add in behind her will then act as that edge kind of glue. Like I said, Aleene's clear gel tacky glue for this. And we'll put plenty down the middle. And then again, just leave a little bit around the outside. Just so we've got some tuck areas that we can add. And then just give it a little bit of a push, just so that we know that we can close the journal again later without any problems. So I need to leave that to dry and just hold and grab for a few seconds, and then I'll be back in about 5 minutes. I think she's now had enough time to grab and bond. So I'm bringing in these bits of botanicals from the Tim Holtz ephemera set, just to add a little bit more kind of softness around the edges. So again, using the same glue, I'm going to just add some bits of glue to the back. And because I've left the edges up a little bit, that makes it easier for me to be able to tuck these little things underneath, but when I stick them over the top, that's going to create that kind of bond to pull the edges back down again. So we've got these two little pieces here, so add the glue around there. And then I can tuck that one underneath there, and then over the top there. Kind of nice sort of lead. I'm probably not going to use those two pieces. So that can sit there. Now I've got this little robin. Now I thought that would look nice if I just put him sitting on her shoulder like that, as a little almost hidden bit of ephemera, but we'll see. Right, so the next piece then I want is this little bit here. So I'm often asked when I'm doing, or in the comments when I've done pages like this, is where the inspiration came from. Well, for these kind of pages, the inspiration comes from obviously the words that are chosen for the main, but also the colour scheme. So when I looked at the colour scheme, I wanted something that was a little bit grungy. Yeah, pop that there. But it was the words neglect and shabby that kind of got me going on this one. So I wanted something which was, you know, kind of a bit perfect, which is her. And obviously geisha girls strive for that perfect look, that perfect beauty. But what looks like perfect beauty, you know, on the surface, sometimes is just a veneer. So next piece, and then once I've got my images that I want to use, I've got the colours and the words, I use the words and then I search on the internet for quotes and sayings that might include some of those words that are the words for inspiration. That gives you sometimes the perfect quote for the right situation. So let's tuck that under and bring that one just over the top, around the umbrella. Just push that down a bit, and then excess glue we can just wipe off. There we go, it's starting to look rather lovely. That background is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's a grungy background, but it's disappearing into the back. And then just before this glues down completely, I've already just taken the bottom part off that because it's a bit too long, just so that it'll fit. And then we'll just add some glue to that. And then we can tuck that underneath, and then just follow the shape of her parasol. So that's going to need to have a little bit of pressure put down on it, just to make sure they're holding and gripping. So I need something with a little bit of a weight behind it. Well, that'll do actually, something like that. That's got some water in it, so that'll be quite heavy. And then what else have we got? Yeah, they'll do. So if I just add a little bit of weight onto those things, that should hold them down enough. Then I can go and replenish my coffee and I'll be right back. So most of those items are now stuck down, so I just want to add on this final butterfly. So I'll just add that glue in there. The lid got turned upside down. Right. So I'm going to put that butterfly about there. So it's almost like she's gazing at that butterfly. Add that on, and then do we add the robin maybe sat at the top of a parasol, just as a little bit of quirkiness, a little bit of fun. So let's add a bit of glue on there. The feet on the tail, that should do it. Yeah, just so it looks as though it's sat on the top of a parasol. Like I said, that's just a little bit of fun. It's probably one of those things that you don't see immediately when you look at the page. Okay, so I need to leave that to set. I'll probably end up trimming this little corner off here while that's drying, so when I come back that's probably going to be gone, so watch out for that. Everything's now had a chance to dry, and the eagle-eyed amongst you will have also noticed that the shine on all of that ephemera, the Tim Holtz ephemera, has disappeared. I've gone over the page with a coating of clear gesso, which you've seen me do 1,000 times. It's literally just painting over the top and then drying just to get rid of the shine. It turns it matte, which is what I prefer. Okay, so the next step is going to be adding the quote. So I put in the words shabby and neglected into the internet and asked for quotes containing the words shabby and neglected, and I found this fantastic one by a chap called Edward Dahlberg. I'm not really sure what his background is, but this is the quote that he came up with. So, genius, like truth, has a shabby and neglected mien. And that just means appearance. So genius, like truth, has a shabby and neglected appearance, which I thought was perfect for this page. So I'm going to glue this down just using my Stick It pen. This is one of the Do Crafts Stick It pens. It's just white PVA, just bog standard white PVA, but it's got a bit of a fine point applicator. So make sure we get the words the right way around. So I printed this quote off when I printed my geisha lady. So I did it all at the same time, and I've just cut it out into thin strips, and I've cut them really, really close so that it's actually close to it, rather than leaving a white or a lot of white border all the way around it. I'm making sure I put plenty of glue on the back. Run my finger over the top just to smooth it out. And remember, the PVA will go completely transparent when dry, so you don't have to worry about any of it squishing out the sides. I should have got some tweezers, shouldn't I? I do have some somewhere. Trying to manipulate small pieces of paper with big sausage fingers like I've got isn't really the ideal thing, but as most of you ladies will know, you've got more delicate fingers than us blokes, so you'll probably be alright. And for you blokes that are watching, sorry. There we go. So I shall stick that down like that, give that a chance to dry, and then when that's all dried and grabbed, in the words of Arnie, I'll be back. My quote's now had a few minutes just to dry and bond, and as you can see, or I think anyway, it's that kind of grungy shabbiness in the background has definitely disappeared, but does create a really nice kind of backdrop to the image. And I think the colours all kind of blend really nicely too, or I think so. So what I want to do next is probably going to horrify a lot of people, but I'm sorry, the whole point of the inspiration is to grunge it up. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I've put a little blob of that honey brown paint just on to my craft scrap piece of paper there, and I'm going to take some clear gesso. I'll grab my brush that I had earlier, just give it a quick swizz round in the water to make sure it's a bit cleaner. And just while that was dry and the camera was off, Ian's just popped in just to say it's lunchtime. I hadn't realised it was that late in the morning, but hey ho. Right, so I'm going to get some clear gesso and I'm going to mix it with the paint. So I'm getting a tinted kind of affair, if you like, and I'm going to go over, just dry brush over, almost like Tim's, what does he call it? That glaze, vintage photo glaze. I'm just going to go over everything with a dry brush, including her. Which, you know, like I said, is going to horrify some people. But you've got to remember what the inspiration was. Suffer for your art, as the saying goes. and just grunge her up. Go over the whole page. More gesso, a little bit more paint, just to tint the gesso ever so. Work it out, and then just add that kind of vintagey, almost sepia kind of look. I'm not going too much over her face, but you'll probably be able to see better in the final photos how that looks. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to do a huge amount on that because I just wanted it subtle like. So we've gone over that bit there. You can see we've gone over the flowers a bit. There's a little bit on her face and some on her dress, so I've grunged that up a bit more there. And then just to finish off, just because I always do, I'm going to add some white splatters to the page. So a little bit of white paint. Get my fan brush. Just give that a swizz round in the water. And then I've got some water here. I'm going to add onto that page there. Activate that white paint. And then just put my finger over her face. Not really got enough there, have I? There we go. That's probably going to be more like it. That's it. And there we go. For now, I need to get that dried off, because I've got one last little step to do after this. My splatters are all dry now. You can just see them subtly in the background, so they're not quite as in your face as you'd expect by splattering that white paint on it, but it just adds that little bit of extra texture to the page. Now, one of the last things that I wanted to do is I'm conscious that she just cuts off right there. Now, I could have added another flower just to the bottom there just to hide that, but I didn't really want to. But what I want to do is just add a border around the page now. Now, because I've left that white kind of scrabbly border around there, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue on with that. So I'm going to put some white paint on a piece of scrap here, and I'm just going to load up the brush, and I'm just going to go around the edge now, just creating a kind of diffused, blended white kind of border. And then I'm going to just rub it in. Just to kind of give it and that will help to soften that edge to the point where you probably won't even notice it. And if I think I've gone a bit too heavy, then I can just do a little bit of what we call the to-in and fro-in. If I think I've added a bit too much, I can just subtly go back around with a little bit of the brown, just to kind of deaden it a little bit, because I might have gone a little bit too heavy there. But again, remember, we are talking grunging it up. And know, sometimes we think to ourselves, oh, I wish I'd left well enough alone. Which is true on some occasions. Right, so quickly dry that. And then I'm going to grab that sponge that we had earlier. With that honey brown again. So I'll grab that. Put some of that brown paint on there. And then still using the same sponge. Load it up. And then I can just go around the outside just to kind of tone that down. Should have put a plastic sheet under there just so that I don't damage the pages underneath. Blend that in. And if you want to, you can just grab a little bit of the dark colour again. A little splodge down. Work that in, and then just add some of that dark in. Just to kind of add that little bit more texture around the outside. Bit of the dark. There we go, because I think I did go a little bit too heavy on that white. But that's nothing we can't kind of try and rescue. There we go. Put that to one side, so bring that back in. So that's kind of blended it back in again. So if you wanted to, just a little bit more, just grab some more of that blue patina. Actually, I've still got some left on that card. And then just run that through the edge. And then you can introduce that blue back in. There we go. I think I'm going to stop before I ruin it completely. So, again, one of those things, slightly overworked. Right, so we're all dry. Yeah, I think I did overwork that page a little bit. It did definitely teeter on the I like it, I don't like it. I like it a bit better than I don't like it before. So yeah, I'm going to call it a day there. That's going to be it now. So all I want to do quickly is just to sign it. So I'm going to sign that towards the bottom and put today's date, which is, of course it's Saturday the 6th of June, so 6/6/20. So let's have a look at the inspiration card again. So it's Grunge It Up, brown, burnt orange, patina green. Ta-da! And we've got the word shabby and neglected in there. So I think my June mission inspiration has been achieved. It's probably better about 20 minutes ago, but still, it's nice. I like it, and I like those pops of that patina green as well. So I hope you enjoyed watching that art journal page come together from the prompts set by our good friend Linda. So once again, a huge thanks to Linda Simpson for setting the prompts for June, and I hope you enjoyed watching me create my art journal page. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't joined us on our Mission Inspiration Facebook group, you can click the link in the description area below, or just follow the link that's on screen right now. That's all from me for now. I will see you all again very, very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.